Anytime you hear this lovely music, what comes to mind? It's all about Africa. That is the reggae legend Bob Nestor Marley. Bob Nestor Marley is talking about African unity. He's telling Africans that we have to unite. Oh yes, Africa, we have to unite, because Africa, we always pride ourselves as the beacon of hope to the League of Continents. If indeed Africa, we pride ourselves as the beacon of hope to the League of Continents, what must we do? We truly have a lot to do. We truly have a lot to do as a continent. It is against this backdrop that we are sitting here on African radio today, and in the run-up to the 55th commemoration of African Union Day, which used to be the Organization of African Unity. That was way back in 1963, 55 years down the lane. Now the name is African Union. It has metamorphosized to African Union. And that came to being that in the year 2002, under the chairmanship of the then South African President Thabo Mbeki, that we had the African Union. African Union, 16 years on. What has the African Union achieved as a geopolitical body? Is the African Union on the right path to championing African unity? Is the African Union on the right path to championing African unity? This is what we are asking. What has happened to the continent with its much touted United States of Africa? Are we truly united as a continent? We'll be asking these questions, and we'll be dissecting it to get to the root of it as to what has accounted for our inability to come together as a strong force so far as that continent is concerned. Economically, we will be looking at what has worked against Africa in terms of economy, that many see Africa as a poodle to the Western world. Is that the case? Is that the case? This is what we are going to discuss. This is what we are going to discuss. There seems to be much fanfare about Africa. When it comes to the commemoration of the African Union, we seem to talk about we organizing fora, we organizing seminars and all that, and that ends it. Realistically, what is Africa doing? What is Africa doing as a continent? Some used to compare Africa to the European Union. That look, the European Union has made a mark for itself. It has carved an enviable niche for itself so far as unity is concerned. And indeed, there are a lot of testimonies to attest to it. When you come to Europe, we keep saying Europe is an advanced continent. They started from somewhere to reach where they are today. Africa, what are we doing? What are we doing as a continent? I am Isaac Adu, and I will be your moderator for this special program this afternoon. And I have some able panelists with me here to be doing the discussion this afternoon. And from my immediate left on your screens is Mr. Clement Ametevi KLUTSE. Yeah, he's a well-known man here in Germany and Hamburg, to be precise. He is into politics, and Mr. KLUTSE, welcome to African Radio.
Thank you for having me here.
I think we need to know a lot about Mr. KLUTSE. We need to know a lot about Mr. KLUTSE. Mr. KLUTSE, who is Mr. KLUTSE at all?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to thank you guys for inviting me. It's not the first time that we meet. You have been very, very supportive with me during the last campaign.
Only God can stop us
come back
now.
to your question of who is Mr. KLUTSE. You know, I came to Germany 22 years ago from Togo because of the political situation at that time in Togo. So when I came, I had the opportunity to continue my studies here at the University of Hamburg. I've gathered some experiences in some projects with Africa, going from the European Union to the Japan Corporation. And then, I've seen that there are a lot of things going on in
Only God can stop us now.
As you know, and as first black candidate for the general election here in Hamburg. Now I am as a co-opted parliamentarian in the Parliament Hamburg North, dealing with matters of integration and migration. And economically, I think that Africa has a very good advantage right now. But we, from the diaspora, we have to bring our impact also.
Only God can stop us now.
I, some years ago, have opened my own company as consultant to empower the African community here.
Very well, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Right.
I think. We have another gentleman here, and he's in the person of Reverend BONDZE. Reverend BONDZE, welcome to African Radio.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm pleased to have me.
Yeah. We are very honored and privileged to have a man of God in our midst this afternoon on African Radio. Reverend BONDZE, who is Reverend BONDZE? Is Reverend BONDZE from Asia, or which part is Reverend BONDZE from?
Thank you very much. You see, BONDZE, everybody comes from Ghana.
Oh, okay.
I'm from Ghana, and I've been here for about 13 years in Hamburg, doing the work of God and serving people in my capacity as a pastor. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, we have the pretty queen in our midst, a very beautiful lady. He is in the person of Lillian KUNU. Lily, you're welcome to African Radio.
Thank you very, very much. My head is swelling for this kind of intro.
Swollen-headed. You must be, because she is a damn pretty lady that we have on African Radio, so we have to get in some more ways to sort of juggle her. Pretty lady.
Okay.
We need to know a lot about Lillian.
Lillian? Well, Lillian is Lillian. My name is Lillian KUNU, like you rightly said, and I'm a Nigerian that came to Germany about 18 years ago. And when I came to Germany, I realized that we Africans in Germany, the Africans in Germany, we're not doing enough to push forward. It's not like they are not trying. It's either you come as a student and you study as an African student and go back home. That was back then. And or you're here, you're doing many jobs. And the only way, I felt like the only way to break out of this jinx is to choose a different path. And of course, it's not been easy because you find out that your own people are the ones that want to bring you back. They are the ones that will tell you, no, don't let me manage. Why are you doing this? I've even been accused. Why do you like doing things that white people do? I said, there is nowhere it is written that a white person, of course there's discrimination, but you have to show that you can do it. So like I said, it's not been easy. I came to Hamburg 8 years ago precisely, after staying 10 years in Nordrhein-Westfalen. And I've been in Hamburg then doing social activities, civil engagement of my own initiative. And in the meantime, I've been working with different organizations, state and private initiatives.
Only God can stop us now.
People to help promote the African community in Hamburg and, of course, Germany. And let's say promoting Africa has become my business right now.
That's good. That's Lillian KUNU there for you. She says promoting Africa has become her business. Yeah, it is good for you to showcase your identity to the rest of the world. You truly have to be proud of your identity. Let me come to you, Mr. KLUTSE. Is Africa's drive for a collective identity on a sound footing? That is unity, that we want people to see us as a unique people, that truly we are Africans. Is it on a sound footing?
Do you mean regarding Africa as continent? Or
Very well.
Okay. Okay, I can say that in a theory, we can say that we have some entities like the African Union or the ECOWAS, talking about
ECOWAS is the sub-regional bloc, yeah.
Exactly. And I think that is the beginning to realize this.
Only God can stop us now.
It's very, very important right now regarding
from our colonial masters. We are just leaving our colonial masters, but our mouth is still in their pockets. The mouth of Africa, we grow things and they are sold to us at the price that we don't want. We call ourselves as African unity, but we are being controlled. But look, Europe have European Union. We have Africa, United States of America. These people fought for it, but they don't want us to also become African Union because of partition of Africa. You can see that different languages in Africa has been the cause. Someone from Togo speaks French, Nigeria and Ghana, we speak English. And we have Guinea, they speak Portuguese language. All these things, when they come together, does not make Africa as unified as we may be. And we can't even control our own market system. Our presidents are not united. Look, in Africa we have ECOWAS, we have the Central Africa, we have Northern Bloc, those from the Northern Bloc.
We have the Central Africa Community.
Yes, even Morocco is not in the African Union.
No, but recently they've decided to join ECOWAS.
How long and why should it be so?
Maybe they had their reservations about the African Union.
How many years did we start with this African Union? And when did Morocco came in to join? Look at this. That is cutting us at the back. I once remember in 1990 when a footballers from Algeria came to Ghana to play. Zamalek came to play Ghana, and one player asked, how many kilometers?
Asante Kotoko.
Yeah, Asante Kotoko. How many kilometers is Morocco to Africa? Because they are white. And we are what? Black. Some people don't even recognize themselves as Africans. If we ourselves, some of us are claiming to be Europeans while they are not, how can this stand on a good footing? For the sake of time, I will leave here. I'm saying a big no and a small yes. Small yes is we've just started toddling. We are just crawling. But a big no that we cannot fly.
Only God can stop us.
That is Reverend Bondzze for you. He says Africa must hit the ground running and not crawling.
Yeah, we are
anyway, we'll delve deep into what has accounted for this kind of situation in Africa. Lily, let me come back to you. You are a social activist, and Africa, as we did talk about earlier on, we are striving to get a common front. And we now have the African Union, which is supposed to champion the cause of the ordinary man in Africa. Do you see the African Union as doing that?
Like I said before, I don't feel the effect of the African Union. Sorry. The members, I don't think the members stand for each other. We are, for instance, there has been instances whereby we as the ordinary Africans, we expect the African Union to stand up and say, oh, no, this is our member country. No matter what, they still did this, you have to talk to us. African Union is not being discussed with, they are being talked to. They are being told what to do. African Union is still being given directives as a union.
Directives from where?
From our masters. We are still being colonized.
Do you have any empirical evidence to that effect?
I don't need to have a paper of evidence to know as an African what is happening. Our own interest is not really being pushed forward, but rather we have okay, take a look at a lot of the French sides of Africa, a lot of former French colonies. A lot of them have been in power for the past God knows how many decades. But because we are doing favoring the French government, they dance according to their tune. So they are being supported to even oppress their own people. They have the support of the French government. They have the last time I was in Cotonou, I saw white soldiers, and I was like, okay, are we in what is happening here? So,
but is it not as a result of this policy of assimilation? I think when we get to Mr. KLUTSE, he will talk much about that.
Yeah, it is a policy of assimilation against, because okay, look at let's talk about Benin and Lagos, Nigeria.
Right.
Benin Republic. They were formerly part of Nigeria. Cameroon was also part of Nigeria, and now these people have been divided. They've been told you are not You are not brothers, for instance, and one side speak French, the other speak English, and they see each other as enemy, whereas they have a common language, for instance, Yoruba, that ought to unite them together, but that is not happening. So you see them like, if as I'm a Nigerian, I go outside of Nigeria, I don't really feel free because I am, and that shouldn't be. We have the African Union, we still have borders all over Africa. Yeah. That is the point. That is the problem. Like in Europe, European Union here, I can travel from here to France, from here to anywhere without a border, a physical border.
Geographically, they have borders.
Geographically, but
they have borders.
physically, you don't see them.
Africa, physically, we have borders. Geographically, we have borders. Is that not the same case here in Europe?
Yeah. In Europe, if I'm traveling, I take a train for instance, I take a train from here to France. I won't be stopped by any border police. That is the point. They might come in to check for whatever check in case of criminal activities, but not to check whether, if I have, like now, if I have with my residence permit, I can travel all over Schengen without being bothered. Whereas this residence permit was issued by the Federal Republic of Germany. So as a German, I can travel normally. If I were a German, I could travel everywhere. But in Africa, that is not the case. If you are going to if you are going to Nigeria, you have to pass through the border. If you are going back, if you are going to Ghana, it's the same thing. So what are we talking about? We are Africa. We call ourselves African Union, and we still have those borders there, and we don't feel free with each other. So that is the point.
Yeah, Mr. KLUTSE. Lily did make a point that the Westerners are working against Africans. We coming together to get a solid front to sort of state a case for ourselves. May I ask that are there some external strings? People are pulling strings behind Africa to sort of shatter our common destiny
God can stop us
as one people. Because take from what Lily was saying that he was bold and came out clear that no, the Westerners are working against us. But I will not say the Westerners per se. Are there some external strings? People are pulling strings behind us as people?
Look, we can say no. To be very clear, that some interests are here.
Only God can stop us now.
In case of the French-speaking countries, it is true that France is pushing its own policies in Africa.
Right.
Okay. Talking about my country, Togo, we know that France has a very huge impact on the policies and the politics of what is going on. We can, mention countries like Cameroon and all the French-speaking countries. So it is true that this kind of situation makes it harder for this country to find their own way for development. On the other hand, the English-speaking countries have this more freedom than the French-speaking countries. It is true, but for me, I just want us to see the things from different perspectives.
Good.
The political aspect of Africa, African countries, is one thing, and I've been, in the last month, going through some researches about Africa, and I've understood that the African Union is trying to change to make a rule for all the countries. She mentioned the case of traveling without problem here in Europe, but having borders in Africa. I can take the example of the Republic of Benin, where I read that they have suppressed the visa for some countries, for example, that people can come freely, another African countries.
Only God can stop us now.
It is the way things are supposed to be. And I am, like I said before, we have some problems, but I am optimistic that they are working toward, this unity politically, because there is the only way to make a real unity. Like said, that is the political aspect. Economically, there must be a certain exchange between countries. Just like the European Union is doing it also.
Only God can stop us now.
Because I cannot understand that if a country like Cote d'Ivoire or Nigeria produce cocoa, that this cocoa must be sent to Switzerland to be transformed to chocolate, oil, and sent back to Africa, while we have the capacity, in our countries also to make the same thing. The only thing for me is that we are not bold enough. We don't have this self-confidence.
Only God can stop us
and
now.
we think that everything that comes from abroad is the best, and we dismiss what we ourselves can do or are capable of. So we have to change also this mindset, because in the future, I think that Africa has a very, very big potential.
But on paper, the African Union has got lofty ideals, and they have some organizations under it, which to me is very nice, or should I say, well formed. They have what they call the New Partnership for African Development, NEPAD, which is an economic development body under the African Union. So in respect of what you were saying, that economically we need to eat what we grow, like cocoa you were using as an example. This New Partnership for African Development, what have they done in that respect? These are some of the questions, and you have been following the geopolitical body for some time. What do you think has NEPAD done in this respect?
Not much.
Only God can stop us now.
Not much, meaning they've done something.
Okay, what I can
Not
say,
much, meaning they've done something.
what I can say is that on the paper, they have very, if you go through the papers, the proposals,
Very well.
these are very good concepts they have written.
Yeah, that is exactly what I was
But
talking
in the
about.
practice, nothing happens. As African of the diaspora, I have this sense that we ourselves don't understand what is, we don't understand the importance
Only
of
God can stop us
continent.
now.
I used to think about African Renaissance.
African Renaissance.
African Renaissance. We have to promote the Africa economic development more effectively. And let me take the news, what is going on in the news.
Good.
In Germany, we are talking about fighting the root of migration. Coming from Africa. That is the political discussion.
Only God can stop us now.
What is the motivation why the youth are leaving Africa? To be clear, it's poverty. Okay, it is poverty. In some extent, we have some political, challenges also going on, but the main problem for leaving Africa is poverty. It's why I was a very big supporter of the new policies of the German government, talking about
Only
the Marshall Plan for
God can
Africa,
stop us now.
or Compact with Africa, or Pro-Africa, to strengthen the private sector in Africa. Because I am convinced that Africa has a very, very big potential economically by creating jobs from the bottom up. But we have to, as a diaspora, to have an impact on that development. So to come back to your question, it's a very good idea.
Only God
But
can
like I
stop
said,
us now.
we have to put it into practice, but also with the help of the diaspora, because it's like in everything they are doing, they don't mention the diaspora as an entity or
we will come to that. Okay. We will come to that and talk about diaspora matters as to the diasporan relationship with the African Union. We will come to that, and once we are here, we will talk about the diasporan relationship with Africa. Pastor Bondze, let me come to you. You see, we used to have some visionary leaders in the person of Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah from the Republic of Ghana, and Emperor Haile Selassie from Ethiopia, and Sekou from Guinea. These were people who were visionary leaders, and recently, Kenneth Muammar al-Gaddafi, may his soul rest in perfect peace. These were, and the Zimbabwean leader, Robert Mugabe, these were people who were championing the ideals of Pan-Africanism. Good. And the African identity. But it looks as if all that they did came to naught. Their quest for Africa unity came to naught. What do you think accounted for that?
Thank you. I was coming to this point. And thank you for giving me the chance. One, all these visionary leaders are no more. All these leaders who championed the African unity are no more. And their ideas have been subverted to nothing. And new leaders who come in are always controlled. They have been puppets. They are being used as instruments. The Europeans says, confuse them and rule over them.
Confuse and rule.
Yeah, confuse the Africans.
Confuse and rule.
Confuse the Africans and rule over them. They have made us confused, fighting among ourselves. And they come in to do this. They are even, some of them are even underneath all these fights and things going on in Africa. Look, China is now moving into Africa.
They are already there.
Wait. And America has even signed some treaty with Ghana that they are coming in with what? Military, and because of that, they are going to do. There are so many treaties which have been signed by these foreign leaders, by our various African leaders, which the country itself don't know.
Homosexuality is on the radar now.
That is not my business right now, because I'm a pastor. I'm not going to talk about that. We are about Africa.
Yeah, and it is part of Africa, because it is our African leaders who have been wooed to accept.
That is another side. We've not come to that. We are talking about why is it that the African Union is not on good footing. That our leaders, most of them are no more too. And because of language barrier, a French does not want to look. Even we, the English people, we have this Pan-African Games in England, which is championed by England.
Commonwealth Games.
We have Commonwealth Games. French also have their own, and the Portuguese also have their own. All this being championed by their colonial masters. How can we be one, even in games? That is one. That is my third point. And the fourth point, economically. Look, if Africa is respected, we can champion the 70% of economic in the whole wide world. In gold, we are there. In diamond, we take 40% of Africa. Why is it that we Africans, look, everything, as Mr. KLUTSE said, all our resources are taken outside, refined, and being sold to us at a higher price. We ourselves don't even want our own making African goods. How can we make it economically?
No, but don't you think it is not that we Africans as people, we are not saying that we don't want that, but we are unable to add value to the
good, which means those leaders who are championing and shouting Africa Union.
Do you blame it on leadership?
Leadership that is the versus. Yes, is it? The leadership are being controlled. They are being used as muppets. This is what have been the. In fact, if Africa is given its right stand, Africa can lead the whole world.
So which people are at all behind the scenes?
Don't push me to mention names.
Let me push you.
Don't push me to
We
mention.
are talking Africa.
Go into the internet and search it yourself.
I will not search it myself. That is how come we are talking Africa. Africa is 55 years old now. So Reverend BONDZE says, don't push me, but I'll push him to the wall to mention names here. 55 years as people, as one people, and we are unable to add value to our own produce. Is it not sickening?
Look at
that. Is how come
let
we
me
are
take
here.
you to our own country, Ghana. Gold is being produced in Obuasi. Ask Asantehene, how many royalty does he get from the gold? And what can he do with that gold? If Ghana, if we are using the resources from the gold, we can even build towns. Every year the royalties can even make a small pipe from some place and do a little bit of development.
Community development.
Community development is no more there. Recently, our president came to Ghana in Germany and he was giving some amount. What is he doing with that amount? Why does the Mr. KLUTSE say?
What amount was he giving?
Go to the internet and check it.
No. Reverend BONDZE, can you do me a favor here? Can you do me a favor here?
Mr. KLUTSE said that the German government is trying to empower the Africa so that the private sector can grow.
Yeah.
So that is what the German government is also doing, helping Ghana. What are we doing as Ghanaians? Why do we always have to rely on foreign aid?
Thank you.
These are the things that are going on in our country. We always want to rely on foreign aid. And go look at our central marketing.
We will come back. You hold your fire. Hold your fire. I can see tendons and sinews are crashing over there. Hold your fire. Let me come to Lillian. Lillian, Reverend is saying we are unable to eat what we produce, and we are puppets, or should I say muppets, to the Westerners. He has been straightforward with it, that we are puppets to the Westerners. Is that the case?
Unfortunately, yes, that is the case. And the problem is when you say trade contract, trade fair, we don't have a fair trade. That means Europeans or Westerners get to push their own goods.
I don't really have agua and all that.
How much, like now, for instance, if I'm bringing something in, it's not until recently that the Nigerian government say, okay, we can ban this, we can ban that, even at that, we import almost everything we eat. That is how bad it is. It's not like we cannot produce it ourselves. If we concentrate.
But where are the industries to produce?
No, the industries, the problem is, that is the problem. The problem is that the government officials are so corrupt that the money they are supposed to use to create industries end in their private pockets. So the people, the common persons is left without nothing. Nigeria makes millions, sells millions of barrels of oil every blessed day, makes billions, make millions of dollars every day. And yet the average Nigerian is hungry. The average politician gets, in a year, takes home 3 billion naira. Convert that to euro, you will know how much it is.
3 billion naira every year.
Every year. Whereas the average in Nigeria, 3 billion, not million.
Every politician.
Every the senators. That's
just
the senators in the House of Representatives.
The upper house.
That is it. So the point is, we've not even started talking about how much the governors are taking. If you want to become rich in Africa, just go into politics. That is the problem. You go into politics, in the next minute you are a millionaire. You are a billionaire, whereas your constituents are still suffering.
But is politics an avenue? Is politics supposed to be an avenue to enrich yourself?
That is not. That's not how the Constitution says it.
But why is it so?
Yeah, because we have corruption. We've allowed corruption to thrive. That is the problem. We've allowed corruption to thrive. That the corrupt our leaders, they live like king and queens, and the people are suffering. They are dying. Somebody dies for malaria, or childbirth. You don't know how many times a woman go into the labor room and die because they cannot produce money to even start operating on her sometimes when it's needed. That is how bad it is, and it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be, because with what we have on ground, if we start working, if we are working on what we have, if our leaders are not greedy, by now we would be far away. So when we talk about the Europeans on their own, we should also talk about our leaders that are
Only God
what
can
they ought
stop
to
us
do.
now.
So they will tell us it's impossible. Like I was saying, for instance, okay, instead of they are saying is this, is that, okay, let's be sharing the money. They said no inflation. I said let there be inflation. At least we'll know we'll see the money.
Yeah.
At least we know we see the money. But instead of that, some people will pocket. Last time they discovered 20 million naira, $20 million in somebody's apartment hidden.
Who discovered that?
In Nigeria.
Who?
The government, EFCC, so-called discovered 20 million.
Okay, like Ioko in Ghana. Okay,
You understand?
organized crime unit.
Okay,
Yeah.
now, they discovered 20 million hidden in somebody's apartment. Somebody hid 20 million, whereas the larger populace is hungry. So I used to ask myself, is it that they have psychological problem that, it's like leadership. If you want to become a leader in Africa, you have to kill all sense of empathy. That is what we are lacking right now. Even the poor countries, the leaders are living well, whereas the major populace are suffering. So that is the point. The leadership is not doing accordingly at all. So if we are saying the Europeans are doing, okay, what about the reason we even get trade? Let's say where the prices of how we sell our cocoa are given to us, the prices of gold. The one we get, what do we do with it? That is also another question we should be looking at.
You see, this was what I was talking about. But anyway, if you've just joined us, you are live on African Radio Germany, and we are discussing African unity. And the name of the program is Hello Africa. This is a special program which has been designed only today in the run-up to the 55th commemoration of African Union. African Union, you see, has been around for 55 years, and there are some pertinent issues that we need to discuss. And African Radio, we've taken it upon ourselves to discuss these issues today. Though someone may say, oh, you people are domiciled in the diaspora. What will be the effect of whatever it is that you people are saying? It will definitely have an effect, a very deep one. So we won't stop saying it. That is how come we are here this afternoon, and my able panelists are also doing justice to it. I have Mr. CLEMENT KLUTSE from the Republic of Togo here, and Lillian KUNU also from the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and Reverend BONDZE also from the Republic of Ghana here. You see, you can feel the mix. It's all about Africa. And it is Africa Radio which is doing this kind of program. You won't find it anywhere. It is live on Facebook and YouTube as well. You can also join the feed. Yeah. Let me come to you, Lily. But before I come to you, I think we have to go back memory lane and listen to this powerful message from former Ghana President Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah about African unity.
We are there for you all. Only God can stop us now.
Yeah, I think we have some technical challenges with the tape. We'll still come back and play the tape so that you get to hear about what exactly Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah they talked about Africa unity. That was way back before Ghana's independence in 1957. He was one of the visionary leaders that I was talking about who were championing the cause of African unity. In one of his powerful speeches, he did say that the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked up to the total liberation of all African states. This is the man I'm talking about, a Pan-Africanist. He teamed up with Secretary of Guinea, another powerful man. His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie from Ethiopia, another powerful man. You see, they were by then leading the pack to ensure that we have Africa unity. But we now have African Union, but these are some of the challenges my panelists are talking about. That fine, we have African Union, but it looks as if the African Union is hanging. So we will still be talking about African Union. Sergeant Footstep is fucking up. Yeah, Mr. KLUTSE, let me come back to you. Lily was talking about people siphoning monies left, right, center. But may I ask, the African Union as a body, fine, they have a court of justice where people are supposed to be taken there and tried for various offenses with regards to corruption and all that. But one will ask, is the African Union able to bite? They can bark like a dog, but are they able to bite when someone falls foul of the law?
Only God can stop us
Interesting
now.
question.
Are they able to bite?
If I take the case, the current current case of Togo, what is going on in Togo? It's a very
that is the case in point now. Yeah,
exactly. Since 9 months,
right.
These people are fighting because they said that they don't want
This
the same family
mid-20th century, this
to rule
mid
over the country again. For 52 years,
Only God can stop us now.
the same family is ruling that country with, through military strength.
You mean
Dictatorship.
and
his son.
and now his son for
Exactly.
Okay,
So-
38 years and
And 13 years now.
13 years now. Okay.
The second term, and he wants a third term. Why the people say no? We want back our constitution. No one was listening till
Only
they
God can
decided
stop
to
us
put it in the
now.
hand of the African Union and the ECOWAS. The Ghanaian president is the
He was
mediator.
then the chairman. That was the former president of Ghana, John Mahama.
No, I'm talking about the
Now.
current now.
Okay.
Akufo-Addo is the mediator. Now they are
Okay.
calling him a facilitator in this case, so that the Togolese can have also a certain kind of democracy. But what is happening? The fucked up everything. No, nothing is moving.
Only God
It's
can
just to
stop
answer
us
your
now.
question. Is the African Union are these entities, transnational organizations, able to strengthen our political system? Although it's written in their constitution that democracy is the best way to go to help Africa, but nothing's happening. That is why I gave you the case of the typical case of Togo right now. So I don't, it's like a group of people who gather themselves.
Only God can stop us now.
The way things are moving on that area.
Yeah, you see, under the African Union, they have their constitutive act. Act 20 of their constitutive act, of which their sub-organization known as the Peace and Security Council, PSC. This is a body which has been instituted to ensure that they manage and prevent conflicts in Africa. So, per my research, if they are to manage and ensure that conflicts are prevented in Africa, they are there to ensure some level of diplomacy and not necessarily get in there into, or should I say, poke their nose into people's internal affairs, because Togo, as you say, is a sovereign country, so the African Union cannot poke their nose much into it. So if you say they are unable to sort of quench the fire, is it right?
Togo is a part of Africa.
Very well, it's part of Africa, but I'm talking about international diplomacy in this country.
There are some. I don't know the whole constitution of the African Union, but if we, look at Europe, the European Union, nothing like that can happen without the European Union Parliament take acts. We have seen wars here in Europe, Kosovo and so on. Through diplomacy, they try to solve the problems, but if it comes to a certain extent, then they have to jump in and take action.
Only God
Otherwise,
can stop us now.
A lot of refugees have left Togo to take refuge in Ghana. That can destabilize the region. Is what do we want for our countries, for our continent, for our region? I think not. So I think that there is a laxism going on in Africa. We can hide behind international diplomacy and do nothing to help people who are
Only God can stop
same
us
people are
now.
coming on to Westerners, to Europeans to come and help them. It's a shame for Africa.
But Lillian, don't you think the farthest the African Union can go is only to ensure that they are able to sort of quench whatever fire is coming and not necessarily poke their nose deep into a country which is a sovereign country's internal affairs?
Yeah. Why do you go into partnership? If the African Union was
Only God can stop us now.
create a one Africa, and I'm sure they have contracts similar to the ones we see in Europe or elsewhere in the world. Okay, so now one of the reasons I would say, I don't know, I've not read about their constitution of the African Union because sorry, I've stopped really following the African Union.
Why?
Yeah, because I'm pissed. Sorry, excuse me. I shouldn't be using such language because I'm angry because they are not doing anything.
It means you're no more interested in the African identity.
No, I am an African. I am number one an African. I'm a human being.
God can
Then I'm
stop
an
us
African.
now.
But the problem is, where I lost hope was where I finally gave up on the African Union was that when it was time to fight war in Libya. And no country, no African Union country said a word. And NATO marched into Libya. And now we have the problem, the whole of Africa is facing the problem from Libya. We are all somehow affected by
Maybe you did not know what happened behind the scenes.
No, what happened? At least they would have come out to say, we condemn this. We say no, at least negotiate.
Only
We
God
didn't hear
can stop
anything.
us
We are
now.
just sitting here, we're waiting. And the next thing they said, they decided in Europe, President Obama rallied around his European counterpart, and they did it. The next thing we learned, they are fighting war in Europe, in Libya.
Libya.
Nothing happened. Nobody said anything. And now, the same African Union is there, while the Libyans are Africans, the West Africans are being sold in the slave market. Nobody said anything. Not even a government stood up to condemn. And then you have the, I will come to the
Only
religious
God
sector.
can stop us
No
now.
religious leader stood up and condemned this act. They all sat down and everybody is watching while these people are being killed. It is now from Europe now. The Africans in diaspora started shouting, stop this act, stop this barbaric. Oh, not until then, nobody in the side of Africa, it's as if nothing happened. So why do we have the African Union when our interests cannot be protected, when they cannot talk for us, when something happens? Do you know why the Asians are being respected? Because if anything happens, if you kill a Chinese somewhere, the Chinese government will
Only
react.
God can stop us
Will my
now.
government react for me? These are the questions we should ask. Will the African Union stand up for me when I'm being killed here unnecessarily? Will the African Union stand for me? So these are the questions we should ask ourselves. What is the use of the African Union? Because for me right now, I'm trying to ask myself, after 55 years of being together, we are even more disunited as a people. We don't agree, we don't like to see each other face to face. The first thing you ask, you want to know if your brother and your country person.
I think Mr. KLUTSE wants to say something there.
Exactly. I just want to jump in
can
to
stop
what
us now.
Lillian has just said regarding the case of slavery in Libya.
Good. And then recently you were putting up some stuff on it, yeah? I was
Exactly.
doing some monitoring to that effect, yeah.
That is a typical example
Good.
of what this organization, African Union, is. Why these young women and men
Only
left
God
the
can stop us now.
and caught up in this situation and end up be sold as slaves
Primarily
in
to seek greener
such-
pasture.
in such conditions. You know, since in 2015, during the elections here, the Chancellor has opened, the doors because we have seen that something is going on in the world. People are, running from war. And Germany at that time,
Only God can stop us now.
the system for them to help those in need.
Those fleeing the war.
Exactly. And people were wondering, and I was wondering myself, why people from Africa were not, trying to get into Europe. We had, at that time, like Lillian said, the war in Libya, and how do we call them?
Sudanese.
This who led Italy to come to Hamburg.
Only God can stop us now.
Lampedusa refugees. I've talked to them during the campaign. We approached them. We talked to them, and it's it was a very sad situation.
Okay.
If they explain to you the reason why they didn't want to come to Germany, but because of the situation in Libya,
It was under pressure.
they have no choice.
Down to come.
We cannot count how many of our brothers and sisters died in the Mediterranean. And surprisingly,
Only God
I
can
think
stop
we
us
have
now.
one African country, talk less of African Union, taking action to help this youth that's supposed to be the future of the continent.
Right.
Only you hear European countries, European Union talking about what can we do to help the African youth not to end up
Only God
dead
can stop us
in the
now.
sea. Africans must change their mentality. Enough is enough.
Enough is enough. So says Mr. KLUTSE, and Reverend Bondzze wants to say something. Yeah.
Your question was, is Africa a toothless dog?
Yeah, which can only bark.
Yeah,
but
they
cannot
bark,
bite.
they don't bite. It's true.
Is that the case?
Yes. Coming from the point of Mr. KLUTSE, the Africans,
God can
even
stop
if
us
if the African country they will just condemn. The condemnation is only words,
With words.
only with word, only action, without action. Condemnation is only words. How can an African, an Egyptian, sell his brother, a Nigerian or a Ghanaian, to his brother Egyptian, also to be sold again to an Italian tomato farmer? And the which African country does not, which African president does not know this? Look, I heard even some footballers like Eto'o contributed with a plane
Yeah,
to
Samuel
get some
Eto'o,
people
yeah, he did that,
back.
yeah.
And not even African country and nation what did anything like that. In fact, what I'm saying is African Union is just, as you rightly said, a toothless dog.
I was only posing a question to you. Is
Okay,
that the
you did
case?
It looks as if you are running away from your own.
I am not running away from
then
it.
don't ask what you are afraid to defend.
I am not afraid.
Then
I will stick to my guns anywhere. But the issue is, I am posing the question to you.
Yeah.
Is that the case?
any question that
And
you pose,
indeed,
I
your
think,
submission, there are discerning people out there who will sit down and
analyze what we are
analyze
saying.
whatever
Yeah,
it is
brother.
that you are coming up with as to whether indeed African Union is a toothless bulldog or not.
Yes. I'm saying African Union is a toothless dog because if in Europe here, European Union,
Right.
they have a very good data which they use to monitor anything that they are doing. In Africa, we don't have.
God can stop.
But they have, no, under the African Union, we have what we call the Africa Peer Review Mechanism, which we use to monitor ourselves. That is the Africa Peer Review Mechanism.
Yeah.
We use that to monitor ourselves.
How old is that, and how effective has that gone?
As to its effect, we will seek some answers from
Till then, I stick to what I'm saying right now. Until that thing comes out, I'll stick to what I'm saying now. Beloved, what I'm saying is, we should stop just creating an image which does not have a form.
God can stop us now.
African Union is just an imaginary image without a form. One
imaginary image without a form.
Yeah, it's a sycophancy architecture in the head, a presumed what they are going to do, but without the ability or the potentiality of people who are ready to put that ideas into fruition. That is where we are. That is where we are falling as people. It is good an idea.
Yeah, let me butt in here. You have made a very solid point that Africa, as it stands now, it is a form, but it is something that we cannot rely on. The African Union.
Yes.
Does that mean that those Pan-Africanism stuff is no more a symbolic feature in African Union now?
Correct. What I'm saying that look, in politics, when new government comes, they try to do away with the system of the old one. And that has been our fall.
We can't talk of continuity.
No. That is everybody who comes in with, this is a fresh idea, forgetting about the old one which has to be built upon. Look, Europe have come so far because everybody tries to continue whatever we have. They have built the forefathers. Look at America, 200 years ago, the forefathers also built on this same thing. But we Africans, because of language barrier, because of ethnicity, because of different people and different ideas with different colonizations, this has led even to different religions.
No, but Reverend Bondze, let me come in here again. You keep talking about language barrier, but Europe, we have Germans, they speak Dutch. When you go to the Netherlands, they speak Dutch. When you go to Bulgaria, you see, language is not a barrier in the European Union.
In African language is a barrier.
Why is it so?
Yeah, because if we are Ghanaians, we have 49 languages in Ghana. I only 48. I only respect. I'm a Fanti. I'm saying in an Ashanti region.
That is even dialects, yeah.
Good. If I will only have respect to somebody who is a Fanti, like my sister just said, when I see a black man here in Germany, which country do you come from? He said, I'm from Ghana. Okay, then I'll go further. Which region? Oh, in a Ashanti region. And if I come from the central region, then I have to, in fact, try to distance myself from this person. This mentality is killing us.
Okay, in this case, then he is talking about ethnocentrism.
These are the things. And the other thing that I'm told, the African Union is not clicking as it should. We have brilliant ideas.
Good.
In the shelf.
And that is exactly somewhere the stuff that I was bringing up here. That when you get into their shelf, they have what we call, let me tell you one thing, when you go to agriculture, they have what we call the Comprehensive African Agriculture Development Plan, that is CAADP, which is something meant to ensure that we create wealth in Africa through agriculture and also ensure that we eat what we grow and what not. But it seems to be gathering that.
Before I came here, I did a little bit of research.
Very well.
And in this research, I saw that it is only 68% of Africans who are even African countries who have even come together that we are going to fight crime, war and crime. Some Omar al-Bashir or something.
Yeah,
this
North
country,
Sudan.
they came. South Africa allowed this man to come in, and other countries are speaking against it. Why? And then look, I read through all the
Omar al-Bashir is still the North Sudan leader.
Yeah, I stand to be corrected.
Very well.
There is a president who was allowed into South Africa, and other countries were speaking against it.
Oh, okay.
Let's talk about that. When you delve into their shelves, the packages and what they have, written there.
Brilliant ideas.
Brilliant ideas, which is even capable of taking over.
Lillian KUNU is pissed off.
My brother, which is even able to place Africa above Europe. And all these things are not coming in. Why? Because we, the Africans, we don't believe in ourselves. We don't believe in the capabilities of those our president. And if these our president or those who are representing us in the union, they go there only to sit down.
Only God can
And
stop
even the contributions towards the army is not forthcoming. How can they respond to Sudan? How can they respond to Togo, as my brother is saying? How can recently I saw that even somebody has even packed some.
They can respond by international diplomacy, as I did indicated. They
wait on it from the stamp from NATO and from America. Why? The African Union was to give every country a sovereignty, as we are talking about.
But the countries have their sovereignty.
They have their sovereignties. And
Ghana is a sovereign nation. Yeah. Nigeria is a sovereign nation. All the 55 member countries are sovereign nations.
Yes, we were given the recognition of our sovereignty, but most of us are not using our sovereignties well. We are being controlled by other people. Look at our economy. The economy of Africa takes about 40 or 60% of the whole world. Now we are allowing China to take over. America is taking over. Once I heard President Trump said, if the Americans were to go, when Americans were going to live here, they should have taken the oil. All these people come to.
That was coming from the American president.
Yes.
Only God can stop us
Now, other countries come into Africa. They are only interested in the minerals over there.
Yeah.
Why? Why don't we use them? And most of all the brain drains also from Africa are in Europe. Doctors and nurses, and I'm also one of them. I'm a professional teacher. We are all here all because of certain things we cannot cope up with. Beloved, it is time for our leaders to make sure that whatever is in the shelves, all the plans or good plans in the shelves are brought out and they are done well. Otherwise, the African Union will just be a figure or an imaginary figure. And we cannot.
Yeah, that is Reverend Bondze for you here. You see, the atmosphere is a charged one here on African radio. We are discussing Africa. We are discussing Africa unity. You see, African Union is 55 years old. You see, it used to be the Organization of African Unity, and it was metamorphosed to African Union. That was also in the year 2002. So it's barely 16 years now. Next week, Friday, we'll be celebrating African Union Day. African Union Day, what has Africa achieved as a continent? This and many more are what we are discussing on African radio this afternoon. And the name of the program is Hello Africa. You see, hello Mama Africa. Mama Africa is rich. Rich with mineral resources, rich with oil, a lot, but yet we still take our bows outside our respective countries to the Western countries in search for food.
Only God can stop us.
Must that be the case? That is why we are here this afternoon discussing Africa. So you can also be part of it. If you have any message for us, you can hit it out there on Facebook. It is live on Facebook now. We will read it for you. Or you can also call, if you want to call, 04088305328, 04088305328, or 04088305329. If you are outside Germany, you simply add the code 0049. Then you are through with your submission. Or if you are here and you are using Leica, you can also call 01521626742, 01529626742. It's all about Africa this afternoon. Yeah, Lillian, let me come to you. Africa, religion plays a very pivotal role in Africa. We are very religious. That is what we claim to be. Yet, Africa, as you speak now, is not united, and you are even pissed off, as you rightly indicated. But what is the clergy doing?
Why don't you ask him the clergy?
I'll
first?
come to you.
No,
Wait.
wait.
I'll
no.
come to you.
The point is a very, very good question. You see, right now, you cannot separate religion from African politics. In most African countries.
So,
yes.
that is the case in Africa.
That is the case in most African countries whereby the
religion and politics are intertwined.
Are intertwined. That means, for instance, I will give an example, very funny. When the inflation, I usually use Naira, I use Nigeria because that is my country that I know very well. When the inflation started, we have foreign students, we have Nigerian students schooling abroad.
Good.
And they needed to exchange dollar. And they were exchanging it at very, very high rates. Now, the government did not subsidize it for them, but rather people who were going on religious pilgrim to Jerusalem or to Mecca, they got it for half the price that the student normally would get it. And I was asking myself, what are our priorities? I mean, these are people who they are going to study, and if it goes, if they finish studying, most of them will come back, and they are supposed to come back and contribute positively to the society. Now, if a government doesn't feel responsible to subsidize the dollar, so that a lot of them were stranded in that place. You get people that we sponsor pilgrims, people who are going out for pilgrimage. I thought it's a personal thing. So now, why I said religion is.
So Nigeria, do they sponsor people going for pilgrimage?
I learned they've stopped it, but I don't know how far. But they used to, yes, they used to sponsor people who, if you want to go to Jerusalem, they sponsor you. You want to go to Mecca, they sponsor you. And those are the two people I know that they sponsor. I don't know of other religions.
Any other religion?
Okay, now when it comes to religion in Africa, I have the feeling that the Nigerian, for instance, the Nigerian leaders and the Nigerian religious leaders and the government, we are playing good cop, bad cop. This one will do. Yeah, the leaders will steal, and the religious leaders will tell them, look, give it up to God. Leave it to God. God should do it for you. No, God will not come down and do it for you. You have to demand accountability. Last time I posted a video, I don't know if you saw it, a house was burning.
Yeah, I saw
okay,
it,
a house was burning, and the people were praying.
Yeah, they were standing out
there.
They
were
praying,
standing beside the building and praying for the house. I mean, how sensible. And then the same week, another video came out of some guys, another house were burned. Before the fire department came, they tried with pure water and everything they were throwing, and they were able to store them. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the people now, they cannot think for themselves anymore, because they are told they are frustrated. Of course, I can understand that when you don't have
been indoctrinated
into they are confused. So now we don't even promote in our religious circle. We don't promote hard work anymore. Say a doctor went to school. He worked hard. He became very successful. Nobody talks about him. Okay? Or a sportsman that ran, nobody talks about him, but rather somebody that got miraculous money. How they get the money, nobody cares.
Say miraculous money.
Yeah, miraculous money. Some of them are even dubious money, and yet you pay the tithe, you give offering, or you build a mosque, and this is where it comes in. Our leaders will steal, and now during the last Nigerian campaign, you see them running in the churches. They were giving the pastors money. They were giving the imams money. They gave all of them money. So that is the point. So isn't religion supposed to be separated from the state? But no, in Africa, it is intertwined. Yeah. A lot of some African countries will say we are Muslim countries or we are Christian countries. It is right to say, okay, I'm a Muslim country, majority of us are Muslims or majority of us are Christians, but that the state will put the interest of the religious. Most of the laws that we see happening in Africa right now, they are mostly religious founded. So fine, the good ones we can take, but whereas it is affecting the mentality of the people, then I have a problem with it. I don't personally have problem with religion. I'm a religious person in my own way, in my own right, but I don't believe that I will sit here because the Germans, when I came here, the Germans don't sit down for God to come and do anything for them. They do it. Europeans don't sit down. Americans, they don't sit down. So most of the progressive, if you go to China and all those places, they don't even, most of them are atheists. And yet, they make things work out for themselves. So we have to, our people have to start taking responsibility for their actions and holding their leaders accountable. Not saying, I'm living, you live into God, and so God will not come down.
Okay, then away from Nigeria, let's now take a trip to Togo. Mr. KLUTSE, is that the case in Togo? Is politics and religion, are they bedfellows in Togo?
Well, you know, I left Togo 22 years ago, and I don't know exactly.
2 years is not that far.
22 years. Yeah. So I don't know exactly what is going on that area.
But you've been monitoring some stuff.
What I know that is that religiosity becomes a very big topic. That I read that you know, churches are popping up from everywhere, you know, regarding Christianity, for example.
And how are they connected to politics?
I can't say that it's that politics, you know, has a big impact on that. But, you know, what I think
only God can stop us.
The reason I'm asking this is if you monitored the news recently, when some of the protesters hit out there, I've forgotten the name of the town, a chief imam there was arrested.
I know
and
what.
His charge was that he was sort of aiding the young men to hit out there to protest.
What you are talking about is correct. It was a situation like I said before, where the Togolese are fed up with the government, and the new leader who brought the country into that stage is a Muslim. You know, Togo has since some years now kind of, you know, morosity in the politics because people don't know how to go about the system. Things, And then this man came from nowhere, and one of a sudden he brings a movement in the country. And of course, people from his region where he comes from, you know, Muslims, and they all want freedom. They all want change in the country. So it seems like this imam has advised his people to be supportive of the movement, and it's where the politic jumps in and say that the imam is doing politics. You know, so that is the reason why he was caught and put into prison. Yeah, these kind of things happen in Togo. What I can say is there is a will of change in the country, but specifically for this now, because the one leader who came up to bring the movement is Muslim. They are trying to, you know, to quench the movement.
But was he aligned with Achadam?
I can't say. I don't know, because I like you said, I monitor the situation on the ground. It is true that I have some information from people, but I can go in the depth of this kind of.
All right, then. Thank you very much. Yeah, Reverend BONDZE. Yeah. This is we are now in your court or in your circle.
Thank you very much. Mr. KLUTSE said something that the religious leader was arrested because he was a Muslim. I want to just bring in a little bit of a clarification. I'm not those people who arrested him, but I'm saying he was. I'm reading the mind of those people who arrested him because he was causing a public mutiny. That is why he was arrested. For me, that I think that was it, but not that because he was a Muslim. No, he was aiding some people to do certain things. Let that rest now. Now to the question that is politics actually should be politics and religion should be separate things. But Paul said that we should respect all those who are leading us and controlling the country. And what I'm saying, David was a king and he was also a man of God.
Right.
Saul also was a king, but he was also listening to what someone was saying. Even Jesus Christ, when he came, he paid what? Tax. Jesus paid tax. He said that he does not want his people to break the law. So he was also helping what the politics at that time.
Well, give to Caesar what is Caesar.
And render to God what is God. Now let me come back to your question. I'm speaking as a Ghanaian and I'm a Ghanaian too.
Oh, okay.
In Ghana, we have Muslim and Christianity, but predominantly Ghana is a Christian country. But we give credence to Muslims as well. Even when we are doing our national days, Muslims will come to pray, Christians will have to pray. And all religions in the country are given this opportunity to come and perform. But as to bringing the two together, I am delving into the minds of these politicians. Politicians want votes. So when it comes to the time of them going into elections, they rather go into the churches and the mosque, giving the people money for them to assess their vote. In Ghana, they buy vote. Politicians buy vote. Ghanaians, sorry to say, we don't use our mind and we don't use the experience.
I think you have to retract. We don't use our minds.
I'm sorry. I
Thank you very much.
And I apologize that. Sometimes we have to assess the person who is standing there to be voted for. We only think of what we get from the person. And all these politicians give to the churches and give to the mosque and give to all these people. And after they've won the vote, then they retract all those things back through some ways and means that. Yeah, I'm not saying dubious means. I'm saying ways and means because I should be careful.
You're also running away from it. Yeah. You're also running away from it.
Let me be cautious. I'm not saying dubious. The ways and means that they will find them that way. So naturally, politics should not be intertwined with religion. Right. But these politicians, they know how to put square items into round holes. So if they are bringing them together, I don't blame them, but I can blame them in a way. But what I'm saying right now is we should be able, if we are Christians, we should be able to live our lives as Christians and not to do things that will bring about certain distractions in the community or in any area that we live. Christians or like religious leaders should not go into politics by getting something into their pocket, so that they can, in fact, tell their congregation that do this for this man. When that comes in, then Christianity has lost its impact. But what I'm saying is, if the people are allowed themselves to think about who is going to be my leader and to assess the person, both whatever and the abilities and the capabilities of that person, well said and good. But after religion and politics coming together to do something, I don't know. But yesterday, I monitored Skype in London. I saw that in France, Muslims and Christians came together in a church.
Only God can
They were breaking the fast.
Nice one.
Muslims and when I saw the Muslims singing in the altar in the church.
I mean, we are one people.
As in the same France that is where a Catholic priest was beheaded in the church by a Muslim.
Anyway, let's not go there.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that
it is our Africa which is of prime interest to us now.
I'm coming here. So if Christianity is coming into politics, then that religion to bring and foster unity, but not separation. Normally, politics should be different from religion. But if they are coming in, they should not come in to somebody's advantage.
So can you say it is something which has affected Africa?
Yes. Because some countries are Muslims oriented, other countries are Christians oriented. They are different. All these religions have their own ideologies and certain things.
Good.
But so if they are coming into politics, then I think they should affect politics positively, but not negatively. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. That was Reverend BONDZE from Ghana for you. You see, we were also talking about religion as to whether it is something which has also affected Africa in a way, and they've done justice to it. They've explained it well, and I know very well you are discerning enough, and you have a firm grasp of whatever it is that they put out there. You are still live on African radio, and we are discussing Africa unity this afternoon. Next week we will be celebrating the 55th anniversary of the African Union, and that is how come we are here discussing Africa. But we'll be with you in a jiffy. You stick your stay, don't go anywhere. We'll come back and talk about Africans in the diaspora, their contribution to the African progress, or should I say the African agenda. Then we wrap it up with that. But you stay. Let's listen to Bob Nestor Marley. He is talking about African unity.
Africa unite, because we're moving right out of Babylon, and we're going to our father's land. Yeah. How good and how pleasant